Hey everyone, my name's Sam and today I'm going to be doing a Valentine's Day video. I am going to be making a meal for two. You can share it with your love, with a best friend, or just have it all to yourself. I'm going to be making stuffed mushrooms, sweet potato gnocchi, and cranberry spice cookies. I'm making all of these recipes with ingredients I just have around the house, so hopefully you have most of the stuff to make these, and I just wanted them to be easy and delicious. So I'm actually going to start with making the cookie dough because you're going to want to refrigerate it for a little while before you actually bake the cookies. So I'm going to start by adding 1.5 cups of brown rice flour. Next I'm going to add 1/2 cup of tapioca starch or tapioca flour. You're going to add 1/2 cup of sugar as well. Now I'm going to add my spices. We're going to do 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, and 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. And we're also going to add just a little dash of salt. Now I'm just going to give all these dry ingredients a mix before adding my coconut oil. Before I add in my coconut oil, I'm gonna do just like a big handful or two of cranberries. And they're dried ones, obviously. I just dropped a bunch on the floor. Now I'll just kind of mix all the cranberries into here. You can chop them if you want so you have smaller pieces more evenly distributed, but I don't care that much because they're going to taste amazing regardless. Now I'm going to add 1/3 cup of coconut oil, and if the dough's still too dry, I'll add a little bit more, 1 tablespoon at a time until it's good to go in the fridge. I'm going to add the coconut oil in now. I think I'm actually just going to use my hands. You generally don't want this to get warm, but since I'm going to stick it in the fridge for a while before I make them, it should be fine to mix it up with your hands. I added 2 more tablespoons of coconut oil, and it's still not doing quite what I want it to, so I'm going to add some soy milk, 1 tablespoon at a time, until it's not crumbly anymore. Okay, so I used 5 tablespoons of soy milk. I'll leave an actual recipe for this in the description because it was kind of all over the place, but now you're just going to leave that in the fridge until you need it later. And preferably get something to cover it so that it doesn't dry out. So now I can get started on the stuffed mushrooms. So here's the mushrooms. I got 16 of them washed, and I've ripped, or you can cut the stems out, and you're just going to save those because that's going to be used in the mixture that goes inside of them. And a few of them I also scraped the insides out too if you want even more room to stuff them. This is a pretty quick one. I just need to make up this mixture, stuff it inside of the mushrooms, and then bake them. So I'll start making the stuffing now. So I'm gonna stuff the mushrooms with this cheesy mushroom garlic mixture. So for starters, I'm gonna make a little cheese sauce here. I have 1/2 cup of sunflower seeds that I had boiled, so I have those in there now. And then I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of water to it. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and 1/2 tablespoon of lemon juice. Now you're just going to want to blend it. This tastes so good. Now you're just gonna wanna put it in a bowl and set it aside for now. So I've added nothing but the mushroom stems in here, and I have it turned up to medium-high heat, and I'm just gonna cook them for a few minutes. And then once they're cooked down, I'm just gonna add them into the cheese sauce here, and there's the stuffing for the mushrooms. So I just turned the heat off. As you can see, they're all cooked and juicy, and I'm just gonna add that to the cheese sauce now. Here's the mushrooms with the cheese mixture in them, and I have the oven preheated to 350 degrees, and I'm just gonna put them in for about 20 minutes. I would use parchment paper, but I'm out. And you should have some leftover cheese sauce, which I'm actually going to use as just like a dip for the sweet potato gnocchi. So now that the stuffed mushrooms are in the oven, I'm gonna get started on the sweet potato gnocchi. I already sliced up my sweet potatoes super thinly and boiled them, so they're fork tender now and I can mash them up. So I'm gonna mash this up now. So while you're making your gnocchi, you can actually start boiling a pot of water, because as soon as you have these ready, you're gonna boil them and then pan fry them. I'm gonna start by adding a half a cup of brown rice flour to this, as well as a quarter cup of tapioca starch. And can't forget a dash of salt. So now I'm just gonna mix this all together and hopefully get a dough consistency. So this is still pretty wet, so I'm gonna need to add some more flour to it. Depending on how long you boiled your sweet potatoes, you might need to add more or less, but I overboiled mine, so they were pretty wet. Just about there. I think another quarter cup of flour and we should have a stiffer dough. So I added that another quarter cup of flour and it looks like a decent dough to me. And I have my pot of water back here boiling, so I'm just gonna form these with my hands. So here's my stuffed mushrooms. They just came out of the oven. I ended up cooking them for 30 minutes, and as you can see, two of them that weren't very deep ended up kind of melting, but the rest held up well, and they smell so good. So I just used this tablespoon scoop and started scooping them out and then just kind of forming them, and as you can see, my water is violently boiling, so then I'm just gonna throw them in 6 at a time, and then next to the pot I have a pan with some oil that I have just turned up to like medium low. So we got some boiling in here. Just kind of stir them around. I cook them for about 3 to 4 minutes. They don't actually float as well as other potato ones, so watch out for that. And then I've just been adding all of them to the same pan and lightly frying them. So now I got 6 more in the pan. I'm just gonna get the ones I already formed, add them into the water. So I just have this on medium-low heat with about a tablespoon of oil, and I'm just trying to get every side of them fried, so just keep moving them around. If they're not cooked enough before you try and flip them, they'll stick, as you can see by the little spot there. Just got a few more left, and then I'm just gonna throw some salt in the pan and then put them on a plate, and these are good to go too. So I probably left these to fry for about 20-25 minutes since they all got done boiling, and I just have it on medium-low heat, and I've just been like mixing them around every 5 minutes or so. I left the last side for a little more than 5 minutes, so it's a tad bit burnt, but I'd say they're done now. Those two parts are done now, so we can finally go back to the cookie dough from the beginning of the video. and you can either just scoop it out and kind of press out some cookies or roll it out and try and cut some shapes. So I'm gonna try and do some hearts and see what happens. And as you can see, it's a lot darker in my house now. I started this with the intention to finish while the sun was still up, but there's just never enough daylight. Regardless though, all of this with filming and everything has only taken me about 2 hours, so you could probably complete all 3 of these in about an hour and a half, I'd say. So I already have the oven ready and preheating to 310 degrees, and I meant to put some flour down, but I put some tapioca starch. Just use something if you don't have any parchment paper like I do right now. Okay, we have a problem, the dough's too hard. So when I make cookies, I usually use some vegan margarine, but I was out, so I used the coconut oil. So definitely don't want to put the coconut oil in the fridge because this is just very hard. I had to just like break a piece off and like warm it with my hands and flatten it. So I definitely recommend using the vegan margarine or possibly vegan butter instead, or just making this with the coconut oil and scooping and baking them immediately instead of refrigerating them. That would probably work, but I'm determined to try and make some hearts still anyway. So it did work. I'm just gonna put them on a baking tray. I would also use parchment paper for this. Hopefully they don't stick or anything. I guess I'm just gonna try and make a few more hearts and then just make the rest into circular cookies. I ended up getting 7 heart ones and then just 6 round ones. These ones are a lot bigger than the round ones, so these will probably take 20-25 minutes to bake. And I think these ones will probably take about 15, so I'm gonna pop them in now, set my timers, and we'll see them when they're done. So everything's out of the oven and ready now. Got my 2 different kinds of cookies here. The circle ones took 15 minutes and then the heart ones took 21 minutes. And I already ate the extra one and it's friggin' amazing. Our extra cheese sauce to go with the gnocchi and our mushrooms. Everything is finally all done and it smells so amazing in here. I can't wait to eat it all. I hope you enjoyed this Valentine's Day test kitchen video, and I'll be sure to leave the ingredients for the recipes in the description for the video down below. And let me know if you try any of them, and make sure to subscribe to me, like this video, follow me on Instagram at hempveganlove, and I'll see you all next time.